I was born in a small town in Mississippi by the name of Starkville. And I was raised there born there, and I went to my high school in Starkville. There were 9 of us. There was 4 girls and 5 boys, and I'm number 7, and I had 2 younger sisters. So, growing up in a small town, you just kind of, you follow the path, especially when I had 4 brothers older than me. We went to the same schools, we had the same teachers. It was kind of like I was just younger. But it was, in a small Mississippi town, you did certain things. You went to church, you went to school, you worked. Those are things that were going to happen regardlessly. And most families were very serious about that. My mother was at home. She had 9 kids, right? She didn't have a whole lot of time to do anything else other than raise the 9 kids, but she was a very stickler on education. So every day she pushed that. And my father was a contractor. He contracted jobs in concrete. So he would lay the concrete for buildings and houses and driveways and those kinds of things. It was his company that he owned. So he was a subcontractor, usually to the whoever had the project. I started in a little 3-room school that went from 1st grade to 8th grade, which was about a mile or so from my house. I was elementary school. Ebenezer it was called. Then I went to a school for junior high that was about 2 or 3 miles away from my home. And on that same campus was a high school, and it was called Henderson High School. So I had gone to college for 4 years, and I got a job at Prairie View, Texas. I went to Mississippi Valley State University, which was a part of the SWAC, it was called, all the Southern Black schools. And I went to work with my first job at Prairie View University in Texas. When I went to college, I majored in business administration. So I always wanted to go into business. You just don't know what you want to do. But I always had jobs. So when I was in college, I had a work aid where I ran the bookstore, I ran the bowling alley, I ran the, worked in the movies for weekend for students, just all of those kinds of things, but I always had something to do, to work. All through high school, I had a business. I was waxing cars, I would paint houses, I cut grass, I did all kinds of things. I always worked. That was my daddy's core thing, okay? Mother's education, my daddy's work. You have to be prepared to work. You gotta be able to take care of yourself and whatever your responsibilities are. So my first business, I moved to Chicago once I got back from the military. And I had a friend in Chicago, and we had decided before we left college that we would go into business. So when I got to Chicago, we went into a grocery liquor store, a drugstore type, and that was my first business. After 10 years there, I opened up a couple of small businesses because I always wanted to be prepared. After that 10 years, though, I had an opportunity with Ford Motor Company to be their first minority in development, where they had a majority company that was going out of business, and he agreed to sell his company to a minority and they would keep the business there. So I did that for about 10 years with Ford Motor Company primarily. Had a real good minority development program. Now, relationships is everything. So I've always had relationships. We've always worked with people. I've always had to support a family. So different kinds of businesses, you need different kind of relationships. And sometimes you just need some money, which is a relationship also. But all businesses were built, first there was an opportunity, and then you just got to be prepared for whatever comes. I think my preparation and my commitment to go to work and to achieve, my thing was under promise and over deliver. And that's just my philosophy that I've always lived by. The education was the base, that's the preparation. I mean, anybody can work, but being successful, you must have a degree of education that allows you to make some decisions, allows you to specialize. That's the foundation by which you're successful in business. And you don't have to be successful, so a lot of educated people is not successful. I've always been helped. I've never done anything by myself. And help can be a conversation. Help can be, I need a couple of dollars. When I went into business, my first business, the liquor business, I had to borrow $1,000. And I borrowed it from my uncle who lived in Toledo. And he made my brother co-sign for it because he wasn't shy at paying back. But it's that. We come from a large family on both my mother's and father's side, and we were very close. And we didn't lean on each other, but we depended on each other for whatever we could give to make each other successful. So that just happens. That was a natural thing in my family. When I think about family, I don't look around. It's there. And what you have to do is make a commitment to that family. Everything is not going to be all right all the time, but they must have the confidence that you're going to do what you say you're going to do and be transparent enough if you don't get it done. But the key to family is being responsible for each other. That's the way I grew up. We were all responsible for each other. My brother is also an entrepreneur. He and my uncle went into business together right around the same time that I did. The rest of them are primarily in education, primarily. I don't see me being competitive, but I can compete. Sometimes you just got to know when to compete, or when to be competitive, or when to do what you got to do. So obviously, being competitive is just a natural trait of anybody. It's being successful that's the key to being competitive. There were a lot of opportunities that you didn't get because you were black. There was a lot of things that you couldn't do because you were black, especially in the early parts. So being a black man didn't fuel me. Being a man fueled me. Having a family that was there for me. Being black, as proud as I am of it, and I always will be and always have, you just have to understand the impediments that are out there ain't fair. And you have to get over it real quick and do what you have to do to be successful. So based on whatever you want to do in entrepreneurship, you got to be ready to work because it's a 24/7 situation, whatever you do, because sometimes you're everything in your business. You're your accountant, you're your truck driver, you're everything. But understand what you're trying to do and be a student of what you're trying to do and prepare yourself every day to be better. I got into logistics when I came to work for my brother and my uncle. They had a trucking company, and I was there, I guess, for maybe about 10 years and operated the company for them. And while I was there, we looked past trucking and logistics to the whole supply chain. So what we do is we manage the supply chain. We might own the trucks, we might own the warehouse, we might do the packaging, but the supply chain could include trains, I own a train, boats, planes. So you manage everything that's in that supply chain to make sure that you give your customer a one-stop shop. My customer, DTE, I was always challenging them to grow me. I was doing MRO at the time, and I would always get with them about other opportunities. How do I get growth? I got to be able to get here. This, I don't think is going to sustain us. And my mentor there said, okay, I'm going to give you an opportunity. And we got into the energy space at that time with a partner, and we grew it, under promise, over deliver. So that's what we've always been about. That's my mentality, and that's what I expect everyone who works for this company. That's just an attitude. You got to over deliver. If it's one, do five. It helps everyone. So it was easy. Once you make a commitment and become a student of what you're doing, your business, and understand the expectations, your contractual expectations first. You got to meet whatever your contractual goals are, but you want to always be above that. That's a challenge. I think about black history in its entirety, from the day I was born to the day I died. Every day is Black History Day. Every day is Black History Month. Every day that I look into the mirror, I'm going to be black. So I don't need a month or a day. I'm going to be confronted with the same issues every day. It's nice to celebrate a month and a date. We never can forget that that day is going to be over, that month is going to be over, but the challenges are still out there. So it's a great time to, give homage and thank those people who've come before us and gave their lives and built. But Black history is every day. We make it every day. There's a movement that's been out there. It never stopped, about how do I stop the growth of Black people? How do I make sure that these people that was enslaved and was everything bad happened to them, but still they come out here every day and make it happen? And I think that has created a fear, and I think that we just have to stay on top of what we're doing every day. We cannot forget that what happened in the 60s that drove us, the car is still moving. We got to keep putting gas in it, or electricity now. That's very important. That's a lot with the foundation in preparing you, is knowing what's going on around you, knowing who's with you and who's against you, because that's very necessary, because you can lose a lot of time and a lot of sleep thinking one thing and something else is happening. So that's a part of that preparation, and I think the 60s and the 70s was very important because a big step was taken by Black people as it relates to their civil rights, the voting, all those kinds of things. So that was a very important time, and Black History Month, Black History Day, if we celebrate each other all the time, every day, it's like having a prayer. You don't just have to pray at night when you're going to bed. It keeps your mind moving. It keeps your thoughts positive. So we just have to every day look at where we are and look at where we want to go and work to get there. We just have to be conscious of what's happening around us at all times, and we just got to step it up rather than step back when that opportunity presents itself.